Hey everyone, it's Wolfgang. I want to talk today about buying fixer-upper properties, also known as value-add properties. We want to buy property, we want to make money on it. This is one of the best ways to get started if you're just starting out. They're typically cheaper than established homes that don't need any work. They're cheaper, so it's better for newcomers to this to the rental or flipping business. There's less competition. Fewer people want to buy properties that need work, so there's less competition. And you can learn remodeling skills. Those come in handy, especially if you never plan on doing your own work. Now, that might sound funny, but if you don't know anything about remodeling and you try to hire people, you can be taken advantage of. If you decide early on to pick up the remodeling skills on your first couple of properties, it will help you hire people better. You'll know what to look for. Okay, so we're buying value-add properties. We're getting them at a slight discount from a place that does not need any work. So how do we do this? You move in during the work, generally, not always, but typically you can have a place to stay while you're doing the remodel. And then you can decide to sell, flip the property or rent it out when you're done. You could rent it out and move on to the next property. And one of the benefits of starting off is the first property you buy, the mistakes you make will give you a lot of confidence when you buy the next property, the next couple of properties. So the why, the how, the where. Where do you find fixer-upper properties? Search for real estate owned, REO, in your area. These are bank-owned properties. Bank-owned properties usually do not have serious problems. So it's good for someone who's just starting off. And besides that choice, you can talk to local realtors. I've found properties through local realtors who knew the area, who had a lot of experience. A lot of the properties we've bought over the years came from realtors who knew a property was for sale that was not yet on the market, as an example. So you can get in there first. There's not a lot of competition anyways, because fixer-upper properties, not everybody wants to tackle those. But if you get a local realtor, and by the way, if you're going to go this route with the realtor, you typically do not want to start with an inexperienced realtor because they don't have an established network. What we're trying to do is we want to take advantage of the established network of an experienced realtor, and I tend to have 2 or 3 that I work with to help me figure out what properties are coming up and to buy fixer-upper properties. So bank-owned, local realtors, but you can also find distressed properties listed in the same places you can find normal properties that don't need any work for sale, depending on the economy. Right now, can you find properties, value-add properties that need work listed alongside with the ones that don't need work? Yes, you can. A lot of properties have gone back to the bank because of the debt service coverage ratio issue with the lending. You can look that up, DSCR, if you're curious about that issue. So what do we want to avoid when we're starting off? We're going to buy a fixer-upper. We're going to learn how to do the remodel ourselves. We're going to live in it. What do we want to avoid? First on the list, historic properties. You do not want to buy historic properties. I mean, ever. I say that emphatically because I've had experience with it. Generally, the city will be deeply involved in everything you do to the property. And generally, the things you do to the property will be custom. You won't be able to easily get the stuff that you need to finish the remodel. And the reason is, if a property has a historic designation, there are certain rules you must abide by to keep it looking historic. You can't make a historic property look modern by changing something. To give you an example of what can happen, I bought a historic property. This was years ago. And down the street from me, I knew a guy who had also bought a historic property. He went through the permit process. He got permits to do some work. He bought the materials for the work after the permit got approved. The Historic Society petitioned the city to revoke the permit. The city revoked his permit, and he lost all the money on the stuff that he had bought. So historic properties can be a little bit risky, and I would urge you to avoid them. A couple of other reasons to avoid historic properties. If you decide to sell, historic properties tend to have less appeal. Not all buyers want to buy an old-looking place, even if it's in good condition. If you turn a historic property into a rental, fewer people want to live in an old-looking building. So you tend to want to buy properties that don't have any, that are not beholden to any special requirements. If there are special requirements on a property that you buy, that might be why it's very cheap. If you find something that's very cheap, that means there's too much restriction on getting the work done. If it's going to take a long time and a lot of hassle to get the work done, there are other properties out there. You want to find something that is not going to impede the work progress. Okay, so another thing we want to avoid, a middle of nowhere property. It will take longer to sell a property that's kind of far away from everything. It'll take longer to rent it also. Those tend to be pretty far away from commonly used businesses like grocery stores, gas stations, and shopping. And properties that are far away from everything, they tend to require driving everywhere. They tend to be far away from schools and bus stops. So if you can avoid buying something, unless you actually want something like that, if you're planning on fixing up, then flipping or renting, you want to buy something that's close to everything, that's close to schools, shopping, gas stations, grocery stores. And another thing to watch out for, if you can't imagine holding a property for 10 years, which could happen if the market changes, or if you decide to turn it into a rental, a 10-year holding period is good. I mean, we have that as a rule. When we buy something, we do not buy anything unless we can hold it for 10 years. So if you can't imagine holding a property for 10 years, it's best avoided. And there's some reasons why that can come up. Maybe the quality of the neighborhood is fluctuating, and it's not clear where things are going to end up with the quality of the neighborhood. There might be a lot of disruptive stuff going on in the vicinity. We had a property once where there was a big company that moved in and started doing a ton of construction. It was very disruptive for all the people who lived around there. If you have a rental, tenants tend not to like those kind of disruptions. There can be a lot of road work, infrastructure work, like if they're working on bridges. In California, they were doing earthquake retrofitting, which was pretty heavy-duty infrastructure work, a big hassle to move around. So you tend to want to avoid anything that has those kind of issues. So with that being said, what would we look for what are our sort of nice to haves? You want a decent area, preferably with good schools, and close by to commonly used businesses like grocery stores, gas stations, and shopping. The other thing is you want to be able to look and find comparables, comparable sales, comparable rents. If you can look at a property and then you can find online the sales that have gone on in the vicinity, you can sort of determine, will the work that I do pay off? Can I flip this if that's your intention? Can I make money on the flip? You can check the prices of the recently sold properties to know that. For a rental property, you can look up the rents online and see what properties are renting for to determine if the money you plan on putting into the property if the rents will bear that up. So, and you want to have a property you can hold for 10 years. Especially if it's going to be a rental, having a decent neighborhood is pretty important. So also, if you have a property that's your first property that needs a lot of work, you want to avoid that because one of the best things about starting and finding a property that needs just a little bit of work, if you have absolutely no remodeling skills, it's cool to be able to move into it and learn things incrementally. And then get some confidence for the next property. I started there a while ago, and I got to the point where I was able to buy properties that needed foundations. We actually bought property that had to be hydraulically lifted off the old foundation removed, a new foundation put in, and then the structure dropped back down onto the foundation, and everything up from the foundation. So we started off, though, with a home that was bank-owned that just needed some very minor work. We got some confidence from that, and then we moved on from there to the point where we bought commercial residential properties, things with lots and lots of units. But starting off even with like a condo that needs work, they're easy to buy. If it needs work, it's even easier because there's less competition. And you can move into a condo or a townhome and get some experience on how to do the remodels, and then move on to the next property. Either sell that one or rent it out and move on to the next property and keep going. And then you can progress up in the size of the deals that you take on. But it's really cool when you're just starting off to find value-add fixer-upper properties. If you start with turnkey properties and you never learn what the issues are with maintenance and repairs, that's sort of a hindrance. That's sort of a handicap. It's much better to just take it on to learn some basic remodeling skills. And you can get a lot of stuff online from YouTube, a lot of sources. So, but we've had a lot of luck with fixer-upper value-add properties. A lot of people do this. That being said, they're all over the country, and they're pretty easy to find, especially when the economy is sort of soft like it is now. So I hope that helped. If you have any questions, you can post in the comments. I want to thank everybody for watching, and have a great day.